wait to eventually meet you in person. That day's coming.
Yeah, no, well, first of all, we have game night that needs to happen sooner than later.
That's true.
Because I've got my smack talk ready. Like I'm good to go. And I like all my smack talk to be for the most competitive games like Boggle and Scrabble. You know, all the really tough strategy stuff, like the grandmas play. Those are my faves. Although I was totally, ooh, I like the art behind you.
Thank you.
I was having game night jealousy when you had created your own, what is it, like categories or something? I was like, what?
Yeah.
I feel like I was rudely excluded from this party, and I'm not sure why, because words are like, I'm good with words and the keyboard.
You know, I should turn that into a UX game, but we did friends and family, we did a Google Sheets version of categories because I found the original categories a little dated and some inappropriate questions in there. Now they seem a little...
Didn't age well.
Some of it did not age well. So yeah.
Hey, Liz, before we get too much further, you have got a whole bunch of static going, and I'm not really sure why. I'm wondering if it's your AirPods or
let's try some tests. Let's see.
Okay. So while everyone's enjoying our intro deck and saying hi in the chat, maybe we can see if we can get that figured out, because it's going to be, it'll be mildly.
That'll be a painful ride. Let's switch.
Okay, we'll see if that helps. Can you give me like a me or something? Oh, my Chihuahua is.
That's me in Chihuahua.
Everyone here is very safe now. Al, that's your niece. Come get her.
Gotta love her.
Oh, good. And here's Fiona. All my animals are gonna, everyone please admire the silver tabby princess. Okay, Liz, I see you're muted.
Am I though? Am I muted?
No, you're good.
Not anymore.
Now,
Much better.
It sounds so much better. Before, it kind of sounded like maybe you were crumpling potato chips while you were talking.
Found me out. No, I think it was
Although
AirPods. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think so too. Well, I'm having AirPod woes myself. They seem like they don't, I don't know. We can discuss the use of AirPods some other time, but you also sound a little soft. So if you either, I know you can talk loud, so I'm betting it's a setting. I know you can. I can't wait to hear you talk loud in person. While you're working on that, I think Al, you want to take turns? Should we go through this deck, run through this deck real quick?
Let's do it.
Okay, we'll pretend like this is the beginning.
All right, everyone, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can snap the little URL code. And welcome to all of our Twitter people. Holly does really good at making Twitter friends.
Look, I can make, I think the weirdest place I ever made a friend was in the alley.
All right.
I've done that too.
And do this one, and then I'll do the next.
Oh, okay. So in the interest of accessibility, we're doing our very best, and we have live transcript enabled. So if you do not see that, please let me know, but you should have a little icon that you can click. And then once you have the captions turned on, you can actually click and drag to move that box around if it's not where you would like it to be. So if for some reason you don't see it, let me know, but it should I hope, be Spanish, Amanda, can you see them?
Let me see. Yes, I can see them.
Okay, thank you so much. And we are recording, and we'll have a transcript available with the recording when we post on our YouTube channel that Al told you about a minute ago.
Everyone, this is our team. We have co-presidents here, myself, Al, and Holly Schroeder, past president Martha Valenta, our social media manager, Danielle Patton. And we have two more folks that recently joined the team, Kim Camp, our event coordinator, and Elena Jones, our membership coordinator. So feel free to reach out to any of us with any questions.
Absolutely. And tonight, super excited to have my pal Liz join us as Liz, or yeah, exactly. Woo! Let me do my ASL. Liz and I met through Twitter, and big fan. Liz is a UX designer at Home Depot based out of Atlanta, Georgia, as we would say from here. And I can't wait to see how this is all gonna work out. Liz is wicked smart, so I have no doubt that this is gonna be a great time. When Al and I taught at Coder Girl, Liz was gracious enough to come spend some time with us and dazzle the students, and absolutely did. So I'm super excited tonight to hear about managing stakeholder expectations. Whew, that's a big one.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
That's a tall order.
It is a tall order for sure. We
then
need
next
all of us on this call to do it.
Next month, we will
Right.
have Amanda Andres talking about business anthropology and making the strange familiar. Be sure to join us for that event as well.
And then these are our many socials. You can find us on LinkedIn, on Twitter. You're always welcome to email us. Admittedly, it might take us a couple days to get back to you. We take turns with the inbox. We have a Facebook group and Instagram that we don't use so much. And then nearly all of our talks are uploaded to YouTube, and now we'll also include transcripts. Al and I are co-presidents, and if you would like to get in touch with us directly, you can reach out to us on LinkedIn, Twitter. That's an easy place to find me. Al, you'll probably get better results faster with email. Me, Twitter's probably quicker. And then, of course, you can always check out our schedule and see what's going on our website, STLXmeetup.com. And the cute little QR code with the dinosaur really does work if you want to just click with your phone.
All right. Now, a lot of our events are free, and a way that we can do that and continue to sponsor such great events is through memberships. So if you are looking to become a member of STLX, we do have special member events and swag and those sort of things. Get a student membership. If you're in the field, a pro membership, and these are annual memberships. So I think this is pretty cheap for a whole year membership. And if you're a business and looking to grow with us, we'd love to have you for our business membership where we can shout you out.
Absolutely. And I think, let's see, we might have one more. Oh, so if you didn't catch this when you first came in, we like to, oops, can we go back one? I think Kim is running the show right now.
Yep, she's got it. Just give her.
The Vanna White of STLX. So we have a slide here that you'll see in just a minute, but we like to use the chat, not just to chat, but also as an opportunity to network. And we absolutely welcome folks from outside St. Louis, particularly during the pandemic. I mean, why not? This is a really unique opportunity to get to know our peers across the globe. So if you want to put your name, your pronouns, should you wish, your location, what your career focus is. We have people in all sorts of experience design fields, maybe your LinkedIn profile. And then we have hashtags that we use to signify some areas of special interest. And so hiring, looking, mentor, mentee, and feel free to get creative and add something provided it's PG. Like, yeah, PG-13. I think this is our last one. Al's typing. I'll talk about it. So we have a Slack channel, and that's kind of our communication hub. And we'd love it if you join us there and bring all the good stuff. We have everything from a channel for newbies to get feedback for more senior folks to events and a coffee chat. And I mean, we've kind of got it all there to share resources. And this, sorry, everybody. My dogs are not happy about the storms. Evie.
Here's mine. She heard yours.
Mommy's busy. Okay, I'm gonna mute.
Okay, yeah, I got it. All right, we can keep going to the next slide. And there's my baby. Sounds like, oh, it sounds like it's
Everybody's
the dog happy
I don't
hour.
blame them.
Yeah, it sounds like it's the dog happy hour. So you can find us on Meetup. We always post our meetings here. We do try to post them on LinkedIn and Twitter and everywhere else, but fail safe if nowhere else, you can always find us on Meetup. And we're back to the beginning. So we'll go ahead and get started. Holly, did you want to do a quick introduction of Liz?
Yeah, like I said, Liz and I got to be pals through the World Wide Web, specifically Twitter. And I am always impressed by what Liz has to say. Liz was gracious enough to come and spend time with Coder Girls when we taught last cohort for the UXers. Liz is a UX designer for Home Depot based out of Atlanta and is going to dazzle us talking about how to manage stakeholder expectations, but with the game, enterprise UX stakeholder expectations. But there's two truths and a lie. So I'm super into this already. I'm already ready. Can we smack talk in the chat? How does this work? How does the game work, Liz?
Well, you know, you asked really great questions. So welcome to the MVP of Two Truths and a Lie, the EUX Managing Stakeholders Edition. But thank you for having me. I appreciate it. But like you said, I'm from Home Depot. I'm based out of Atlanta. I work in supply chain. I work on applications that help support the outbound activities in the warehouse. That's what I do by day. By night, I'm making these ridiculous games and doing them across the country. And thanks for taking part of my reindeer games tonight. And so hopefully we can play a little game and have a little discussion about something that's really important to me right now. And it's something I feel like we're missing. We're so robustly excited about our UX processes and research and advocating for the user. I feel like we should be just as excited about managing and advocating for our stakeholders. That is a really important part of our process, and I feel like we just gloss over it. And that bit me in the butt this year, and I certainly want to share my experience with you. And so hopefully you can learn from what happened to me, and I could pass on some tips. And I'm hoping today too that we'll have a little discussion, and you can share your tips with me or your experiences, or you can ask me questions about, I'll answer questions about anything, I suppose. So we're going to play a couple of rounds of Two Truths and a Lie. So each round will be followed up with some tips and tricks. And at the end, I'll say, I'll maybe ask some questions about that. And so, but I'm going to need some help from my host tonight. Holly, are you willing to help me out?
Absolutely. Also, could you expand your screen full screen? Does it go bigger?
That is all I have right here on this particular setup.
Oh, okay. Because I can see your little icons and stuff. I thought maybe, is there a presentation? Are you in presentation mode?
It is presentation mode. You'll have to accept that. It is 86, mostly sunny here. I have Teams.
I know. Mostly it was because of envy. It's raining cats and dogs and all of the dogs are mad. But yeah, so how can I help? I was born to be a game show assistant. I feel like this is my calling.
I'm in the right place then. Okay, so listen, God's honest truth is I'm easily distracted or I don't pay attention very well. I fluctuate between the two. So how it's gonna go tonight, and we'll do a little bit of a practice round here for sure. Can
you be my backup, because I may have the same deficit?
So did you send me? I can do it.
Excellent.
Okay, Kim's gonna keep me in line. All right, I'm ready.
All right, someone has to. So thankfully, all right, we got that covered. So this is how it's gonna work today. I'm gonna share 2 truths and a lie with you. I'm gonna give you about 30, 40 seconds to read through them, and you're gonna guess what they are. And you're gonna put in the chat to Holly what number 1, 2, or 3. Which one was the lie? Then you got to pick out the lie. If you don't want to play, that's okay too. When our time is up, Holly's going to look at the chat and she's going to determine with her best guess, hey, what the majority choice was. The stakes are not high here at all. Towards the end, I would love to bring everybody in on the discussion, but I will tell you, this is the part where my paying attention or not being able to pay attention kind of gets me on Zoom, is that if you go ahead and use your little raise your hand icon on Zoom, and if Holly, so if you have a question or you want to add something, raise your hand, and Holly, can you call on them so they can unmute their mic or unmute their mic for them, and then we can have our little discussion. Does that sound good to you?
Hey, can other people raise their hand? I cannot, just checking.
There should be, hopefully, you should have
under the
in your toolbar at the bottom something that says reactions. Yeah. And if you click it, raising your hand is an option. And I'm opening up my gallery. I see Ranja, Chris, Amanda. I see some folks with raised hands, but I've got, oh crud, can I make this thing big enough? Yeah, so we could do it. So if,
or how about
Al
this? Chat seems to work.
Keep me honest.
Well, no, I was actually, if we can raise hands, it'll be easier for people to vote with emoticons than clogging up the chat.
Absolutely. I love it. I love when we iterate on stuff. This is amazing. I'm taking notes for the next version of this.
I'm ready.
You're all part of my ridiculous user test today. You didn't even know. I disclosed nothing. Oh, horrible habits.
I'll send you a flattering photo for my spot in your case study.
Brilliant. Okay, so if everyone could raise their hands, fantastic. Just so you know where that is. Again, you'll find that little reaction icon, click that. You'll see so you can respond with stuff at the top, and then you should be able to raise your hand. If you want to put your hand down, you should be able to click that button again, and that's how you can vote on things. And Holly, I'm gonna let you drive that from here on out since you're in charge. And we're gonna do a little test run. Okay, so you're gonna learn something about me. So take the next 30 seconds and read this next slide and decide what the lie is about me. Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3?
What if we want it to be true, even though we think it's probably not?
I think we could discuss that towards the end of our presentation tonight. How about that? I'm always up for that.
Yeah. This is really hard. I feel like all of these are possible. So, okay, I think we need to assign emoji. Are all of them 1, 2, 3 for answers?
That's right. 1, 2, or 3.
Okay, so number 1's going to be clapping, number 2 will be thumbs up, and number 3 will be the heart. So left to right, 1, 2, 3 for the emoticons, however the hell you say that. All right. And also, if you have the closed caption turned on, don't forget you can scooch them around if you just click and drag if they're in the way. So, okay. All right. So has everyone, I don't see a lot of votes yet. So far, it looks like 3 is winning for the lie.
3 is winning for the lie.
Yes.
Number 3, that I have 10 years of product experience.
In chat, there's a decent amount of 2s.
I feel like there's no lie in here, but that's what
true.
All right.
That's what the people say. The people are saying 3. Maybe I'm thinking, okay, it could be more.
It could be more. We don't know. Okay. So obviously we have some stuff to work on as far as the voting goes. Duly noted. But here, so again, I am a senior UX designer at the Home Depot. I have worked as a DJ. I did that for a number of years. I do not have 10 years of product experience. Oh my gosh. So why am I even here talking to you about product design in UX when I don't have 10 years of experience, but I am a senior designer at the Home Depot. More importantly, I am a project manager. I have experience doing everything from entertainment, production project management. I project managed in higher education and in construction. And when I did a career shift and I jumped to UX, I started in the service design role, and I worked my way up through a UX role, and I landed here at Home Depot. The through line is that no matter what kind of project you were working on, people just want to be understood. They just want to be heard, and they want to be understood. So managing that and managing people's expectations is the soft skill that we all need to be working on. It's the soft skill we can't forget about when we're so excited to move that needle and make our UX processes more robust. With that said, I'm ready for the next truths and lies. You guys ready for that?
Yep.
All right, here we go. Which one here is the lie?
Okay, so if you think it's number 1, use the clapping emoji. Number 2, thumbs up. Number 3, heart.
Ooh, STL people, did you hear that thunder?
It's so ominous. Stakeholder
That made me
identification.
jump.
So just a couple more seconds to vote, and then Holly, you tell me what did everyone pick? What was the champion of this year? What was the lie, Holly?
So I'm not seeing nearly as many votes as I hoped. It looks like
part of it is they're timing out. I think next time we'll do a 1, 2, 3 vote, and we all do it once.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
We need to do.
I also
that.
forgot which reaction to use.
all right. So we got to work on voting.
So just you click your reactions, top row, left to right, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, okay.
And so if we can do it again, one more time, we're iterating.
I love it.
Ready, set, go, vote.
All right, Holly.
Okay, I think it was like pretty close to an even split between number 1 and number 2.
Number 1 and number 2. Well, let's see. Oh, stakeholder identification is the lie here. And why is that part? It is true that, in fact, it does start at the beginning of a project, especially if you've never worked with these people. But really, stakeholder identification is a continuous, absolutely continuous process. And I'm gonna lean and rely back on my PMI training, and this is what they have to say about it. So Project Management Institute, listen, stakeholder identification is a continuous process. Stakeholders can be a group of people. It could be your team members. It could be your development team. It could be those key stakeholders. It can be all of those subject matter experts. It could be a group of people. And it's important. We often don't do it on the enterprise side, that we take time and we name and stack rank those people that are our stakeholders. And this absolutely came to bite me because, hey, we've been here for a while. So why do we have to do this? We know everybody that we work with. And here I am, we're just going to go in and we're going to learn about this legacy application, and we're going to either rebuild it or we're going to fold some of its functionality into one of the applications that we're supporting, and just go from there. We don't need to take time to do this. And in enterprise side, we just don't have a lot of time. With the business is going, we got to keep it going. We got to keep adding that business value. We just don't have time to stop, but we really should. And let me tell you why. Because legacy applications absolutely tell no tales. You will run into that legacy application that doesn't have any documentation, that's been running for 15 years, pretty unsupported, unchanging. And this happened to me this year. I came on to a product that needed to be, it had security findings. So we're going to take this product and we are going to, give it a little refresh. We're going to fix the security finding. We're going to update some stuff, and it should be pretty simple. Great, right? So we're going to time box what we can do with UX and try to move the needle on it a little bit, but it didn't have a lot of money, and we just kind of need to keep moving forward. That is enterprise UX all of the time.
Was it a green screen?
Can you say that again?
Oh, I said, was it a green screen? I'm not going to say where I've seen it where I worked, but I've seen more than one green screen still in use daily.
Oh, yeah. yeah, right. Absolutely. It's running places right now, for sure. There's 30-year-old applications.
I know it. I absolutely know it is. And this
absolutely.
I have also seen black with blue, which is the most inaccessible nightmare I've ever seen in my entire life.
And you should feel for those employees that have to use that. So what happened? We started getting into it. My little team, this is supposed to be just a one-off. We're going to go fix this and we're going to move on. This is keep the lights on and keep going on. But we started to dig into it. And there's a little bit more there. And we're here to champion the user, right? So we dig into it more. Oh, well, there's actually this kind of user group over here. So we do the best that we can. And it was a whole application redesign. Lickety split. We had to get it done too before I worked for Home Depot. So we had to get it done before it was the busy season in October, November, right? We got to push this out so that this is an application that touched all of the stores and it touched all of the distribution center. We got to get this out so people can get to their jobs and we can get those packages and those items out to our customers so they can have a Merry Christmas, or they can do their construction project, or just whatever it takes to especially get through last year, that we can get it done. We get it out, we get it piloted, seems to be going well. Okay, fine. We thought we uncovered the missing users and we're on our way. Pilots for a month, great response. Great, we're going to roll it out. It's going to roll out nationally. Here it goes. It's rolling out. It's hitting all the stores. It's hitting 1,900 stores, and it's about to hit 35 distribution centers. Fantastic. And 3 weeks later, I didn't get a knock, but I just felt like knocking. We found out there's this whole group of people, a whole group of stakeholders. We had no idea that they needed this. They needed an important reporting feature that we did not duplicate, that we did not give them access to because we didn't see anyone using it. We didn't even couldn't find out that they were logging into this thing. Oh my gosh. And, at Home Depot, associates come first. So we did find a solve for it, but that was unneeded stress on the associates that were using it. This was some district and regional trainers that no documentation, nothing whatsoever. And I can't say for sure that if we took the time to get everybody together and start to uncover, do a little bit more work, do some sticky generations, find more stakeholders that we would have found this people. It touches so many people. But as I thought about it, as we get further and we're starting to go into new products, we got into this habit of we just don't always take that time. We have a kickoff. We're already, doing sticky generations. We're already getting our teams together to, align on things. Why don't we take the time to do it in there? So it became this passion project for me for this year to come up with a way to inspire people to make sure we're doing that. So if you're coming into new UX, or you're going through a boot camp, or you finished a boot camp and you're about to jump in, this is an important part of your job. You are a person that has to manage these relationships. It's not just your product manager. It's you. You as a UXer are a strategic portion of not only the product, but meeting the user's needs, meeting those business goals, and meeting whatever design metrics that you have to meet too. You have to thread that needle, and threading that needle means understanding who this absolutely impacts. Because anyone who feels like, oh, they have a stake in this, they are a stakeholder. Whether they are someone you should seek out all the time, well, that's where the sticky generation comes in. So I wanted to share one of the things that I have been doing since my incident, and my hard lesson learned is that I'm a huge Miro fan. I got my team together and I got some of my key stakeholders, and we just made a list of our key players. And now I have a Miro board full of those key players. So I list them out. We have our little separate workspaces. We list them out, and then we rank them as a group. And then as we go on and we have more legacy applications that we're trying to retire, and we start to make these connections, we start to make, especially on the enterprise side, there's so many moving parts that make our large organizations go. We have supply chain, we have marketing, we have finance. And at some point, these little touch points where they go together, you are going to impact them somehow. And when the business person comes to you and says, hey, listen, I got $100,000. I need you to do this thing. You can look at your chart and you can take the time and go like, okay, if we do this, who does it impact? And I start to remember to ask these people, hey, tell me how we got there. How did this come to be? And we'll kind of get that into that a little bit as well. So Holly or anyone, does anyone else have an experience or some strategies that they use to get their team to be mindful of taking that time to identify these stakeholders? Or have you had an experience where you're like, oh man, we were supposed to go to legal about that. Uh-oh. And what did that do to your project?
I'm a big fan of alignment meetings when we're getting ready to kick off a new project and working with the product owner and having them call out who they believe the stakeholders are, and just making sure that everyone in the room has a voice and an opportunity to say who should be included. That's typically how I kick off new research before we even get deep into like, what are we going to talk about? What kind of research are we going to do? What are we going to develop? Like, who are the players? Who's on the team? We need to know that so we know the right questions to ask and what to include as we move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a super important part. Like there is this discovery, that in our discovery portion, before we even get to kickoff, I try to also have, carve out that time for our key stakeholder interviews every single time. Every single time I carve out 30 minutes, 1 hour, and these people are traveling across the country. So from some of the main products that I support, but I want to hear it from you without having other people in the room. And even if we do a sticky generation where we're using Miro, we all have our own little workspaces, and then we'll come and, we'll synthesize them together. If that's part of our, our remote activity, great. But especially if I can get someone on camera, I can see their face, I can know to ask more questions and find out how I can make those connections. Does anybody else have a story that they'd like to share about identifying stakeholders or have any questions about it?
I reserve the right to pick on former students.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't have the names tonight, but
Well, I'll go. My old job, when we redid our research website, we had a thing where we had both global researchers and domestic researchers. We were doing research for people relocating to find resources. And so we would regularly, because you pay global people differently, they were in the system differently. So we had to track where they were through the system. So we actually built a flow chart of actions and then would color code them to, every time, like, so who is in each action, so we could track which ones affected global and which ones affected domestic.
yeah, that's a great way to do it. And how did you keep that? What interface did you use to build that tracking?
Paper.
You used paper. Oh, back in the day, like when people were together.
It was not a fancy company, so
in the
paper and
times.
markers.
Paper and markers. Did you document it any other way, or
yeah, we made a PDF and then put it in. I think at that time we used Teams as a share space and did it there.
Who did you make sure got a copy of that, or
the head of the research department and head of the IT department? The company had about 200 people plus 500 part-time, to give you an idea of the size of it. So yeah.
And it looks like we've got Chris Butler would like to chime in as well when you're ready.
Yeah, Chris, come on.
Hey, so one of the things I've used is something called Rich Picture, which is a soft system methodology approach where we would do it usually in a kickoff where we'd get a bunch of different stakeholders from the other side to co-create this map that would essentially be people, systems, organizations, and it could span not just only inside their organization, but also like across to competitors. And then we would also look at where there are challenges or frictions. It's something I found really valuable to do.
Oh, I got some notes going on here for sure.
I know, me too. It's like, ooh, I like that.
It's a great activity. I mean, it's kind of post cybernetics and systems thinking where people would try to create perfect systems and they're like, they're these squishy things that keep on getting in the way of these perfect systems working. And it's like human beings. So it tries to understand that part more, which I think is really cool.
How did the people involved with that, how did they respond to going through that?
Yeah, I think it was interesting because I think in one of the cases that I like to reference a lot, it was for a field service operations group. And so we had like the CIO, the person who was head of customer services, the person who was head of parts, person who was like head of the maintenance people. And they all had slightly different views of what was actually going on as far as interactions between people. There was definitely overlap, but there was always this kind of like edge of 10 to 20% where it was different between each of those people. And so getting everybody together actually created a unified map around this. And then we use that a lot just to understand, I used to do a lot of work around like machine learning and AI systems, especially from a design perspective. And so it'd be like, where do we want to try to automate things where there's friction? And then where are there things where people actually enjoy the interaction and try not to automate that away? So I thought that was like a really valuable aspect of that particular map.
I mean, that sounds pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
was it hard to get buy-in to even participate in that?
So in that case, I was working for a company called Philosophy, which was a design consultancy. And so we were brought in for, I think this particular case, the field service operation group was actually a client of PwC and Google. And so they were signing up to be an experiment, like basically a guinea pig for our services as we were going to build them. So it was easier to get buy-in there. And I think one of the ways that we actually, I guess, framed it, it wasn't so much, hey, we need to know how your organization works so we can make sure we don't get killed by someone else that's like anti-us. We approached it more like, hey, we need to understand all the people here so that we can actually build something for everybody, or something that works within this system of kind of systems and people in some way. So that framing, I think, helped a little bit, but yeah.
And, I love that. And it's important because I think that, kind of moving on to sort of our next step, that your job your strategic position here is not just to meet these business goals and design some great UI and champion those servers, but you're a servant leader here. You are the person that's connecting business and users, and it's on you. So you need to be that servant leader to get that transparency. And transparency, to me, is one of the most important things. It will help us align. It will bring empathy, understanding between business units, especially if you work for an organization that's maybe remarkably siloed or so big, we just don't interact on a regular basis. This is your opportunity to be a champion. And well, we're not like, hey, look at my UX process, but what we're doing is we're building relationships. So when it comes to the next steps, and if you are trying to have a more robust or incite or instill these little things that we do as UXers to move the needle, it starts with trust and it starts with transparency. So with that said, okay, I'm going to give you another 30 seconds. We're going to do the next 2 truths and a lie. And then Holly, when she's ready for you to vote, she's going to say vote, and she's going to tell you what emojis to use when you're voting. Does that sound good, Holly?
Yes, it does. And so just as a recap, when it's voting time, click your reactions, and we're going to keep it simple. Top row, left to right, 1, 2, 3. Clap is 1, thumbs up is 2, heart is 3. But wait for me to say 1, 2, 3, go, because I think they disappear.
Okay, I think you're right. Here we go. Take it, go ahead and read it, and Holly's going to tell you when it's time to vote. Not quite yet. She'll let you know. Now, admittedly, some of these might get a little spicy in the sense that, how do we know for sure?
Okay, I think it's time. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
All right.
Would you
Overwhelmingly, number 3, which made me chuckle.
First of all, anytime you use the word agile, you should just walk out of the room. Just forget about it. We're not all in the same place, and we're not all on the same team. So you're right, absolutely. The thing is that it is true that agile does focus on deliverables and not these arbitrary dates. But your business partners, they may not be agile, and I think an important part of any sort of relationship management is meeting people where they're at. And again, I have an entertainment background, and I used to think all the time, we have to tell stories with people and not at people. And I like to take this approach when we are dealing with the stakeholders. Some of the times I go into an organization or a team, and the things that I'd like to try to do there, I think are going to be really great. Like we're going to be so much more efficient if we do it this way. Just come along with me. But change is hard and scary. And so we have to find a way to negotiate with them and get our needs met, work with how the team is going to work, and help them identify a place in the middle that everybody feels comfortable with. And so that means sharing your UX process, communicating with those stakeholders of what's required of them and why. Why are we even doing this? Coming into a space in my past where UX was, what is this? That seems crazy. You say the word designer and people are, oh God, they work with a designer. I just want to build it and get it done. I have to get it done. It's got to happen right now. Okay, that's important. And I need to hear you. Your team needs to hear you. But again, it's not going to be helpful if you just go and build it. That's not what we do. We want to take a little more scientific approach. This is our design thinking approach. This is our user-centered approach that we want to go, tell me what the problem is. Let me hear you. And then let me validate that that's really the problem and go forward from there. And so things that I think are successful. Again, our kickoff meetings, right? Our design studios. That's one of my favorite exercises to have with our stakeholders, especially I've had even recently, a new person has come to Home Depot. I was on a team with them, and they were a dev that worked for another major organization here in the Atlanta area. And they're like, so this is how you design things. We're in a design studio with our operations people, and we're using Miro, and we're copying and pasting and trying to solve the problem. We're doing little sketches of what we think this flow might look like. So what I want to get is inside of your head. I want to do whatever I can to figure out for the people that can impact our project, the people that can mess up your work, who can just throw in like, oh, by the way, I'm going to need you to add this feature in. You can know, you like peek inside. I want to just see before I get in there, hey, this is what's going on. And this is the part where we just gloss over the stakeholder management. We just go, okay, let's have the kickoff. Let's do the process research. We don't take the time to even understand why they might get something out of it beyond the business goals. There's something else going on there, or how they're telling us information. We really want to understand to see if we can uncover at some level some of those unknowns. And again, and meet them where they're at. Absolutely. So one of the things that I found to be successful, our team is agile, right? So we are doing things iteratively. We're building from stories. We're moving in that direction. But our business partners, we have certain applications where that was a pretty robust UX practice here at Home Depot. But there are places and pockets of things where we haven't gotten to yet. We haven't introduced these things yet. And they're just build it and go, build it and go, build it and go. And listen, Home Depot's going and they're doing pretty well. It's going to be okay. And we can't just throw at them, hey, listen, just do this or don't do it. Don't work with us at all. That's not great. So one of the things I like to do is for our design phases, is to go ahead and time box things. So there's kind of a go kill gate. So we're doing this gated phase. So listen, I have this much money and this much time. I don't know what we can get done because I can't predict the future. I can't predict, you've come to me with this problem. I'm understanding it. We're going to do a little bit of research, or we're going to try to come up with, understand what the problem is, define that problem and find a solution, but I have to get it in these dates. And I realize, okay, agile, there's no dates, right? We're just going to give you deliverables, but business doesn't work that way. They need dates. In fact, you need dates, because come Friday, I tell you what, you're going to be ready for the weekend. We need dates to stay organized. And there is a way to be agile and work inside of expectations that I have to be done by a certain time. You just sometimes have to be done because that's all the money. That's all the time. Those are in fact part of the business requirements, is to be done with something here. So we did a lot of, listen, we're going to take 4 days for discovery. We're going to go ahead and take 1 week where we're going to do process research. We're going to do stakeholder interviews and get ready for a kickoff. So we can have our kickoff. We can bring to the table everybody there and do those sticky generation exercises where we're like, okay, tell me, what are the goals? Get those synthesized, and maybe even go ahead and, prioritize those. So what is the most important thing? So we have everyone at the table. And that's the part about having and meeting people where they're at. We got to have everybody at that kickoff. We need them there, or somebody, a representative from their area. And it can be so hard to align schedules. It's the worst. But what it takes is then your product manager, or perhaps your team's management above you, need to go and say, hey, listen, oh man, it seems like you're really busy, and that's got to be really hard. I'm gonna tell you what, is there anyone from your team that could come and help answer some questions, or be your voice? Because with you sending somebody, we reduce our risk. Without that, it's a little more unsteady. And people want to reduce risks. That's the goal here. We want to make sure that the reason even UX is here is that we're going to reduce the risk in the things that we're doing. So, but again, time boxing that stuff. So this is one of the roadmaps that I like to use. It's easy to read. managing those expectations like, hey, listen, this is what I need from you as a stakeholder here. You're a key business partner to me. You're a key IT person to me who's not maybe my normal dev, but maybe someone who's doing building some architecture for us to be able to get into or help replicating a data set so that we can go tap into to be able to get whatever data we need to present to our users. Get them here. Hey, all of this stuff on this middle row here, all of these key dates that are already planned out. I'm going to tell you what, we're going to have an alignment meeting on this day, and I'm going to present everything I have right now. Maybe we found something and we couldn't go any further and we were going to have to pivot, but I'm going to go to that meeting with that. You're going to be here. And if you can just be at this meeting, I can get it on your schedule. They're going to prioritize me. And if I can promise and do and follow up and do these things consistently, like my process is the same every time. Every single time, you know that we're going to kick off with me. You know, then we're going to have an alignment meeting. So we kicked off, we did a little research. I'm going to come back to you, tell you what we found, and we're going to align on an MVP. We're going to say, hey, this is what we think we can do. This is what we think we can deliver. Are you aligned with that? Yes or no? If no, okay, we'll negotiate on something else and we'll go forward. And then we're going to bring them to design studio. It's not about me. It's about how can I get your ideas out here so that I am not guessing about what it is you want. So when we come and say, hey, look, and this is where we're at, you're not like, it's going to look like that. Because especially with legacy applications and processes that are already exist, people have these preconceived notions. And we have to, every step of that way is stakeholder management, is a negotiation. What is it that you expect to happen? If we can just put it all on the table, there's no guessing. There are no assumptions. So who else here has had or has tips and tricks about how they manage their UX process, how they are transparent about what's going to happen, and how they help bring their stakeholders to alignment, especially if they've never, say, worked with a UX team or person before?
Okay, I'm gonna scroll through Liz. I know for me, when I'm doing the initial intake for new research projects, one of the questions that I ask is, what assumptions do you have? So that we can talk about that before we even start the research. So I have I call it an intake form, but I have a list of questions that I ask the stakeholders when we're talking about kicking off new research. You know, who's going to be involved? What are your business? What's your business goal? What are your research goals? Do you have hypothesis that needs to be tested? Do you have any assumptions about this group of people or about the research that we're about to do? And I think it doesn't really matter if you're design or research in that sense. It's going to trickle down. So, you know, my design counterpart is always looped into those conversations. But I'd love to hear what other people do too. I just started yammering because nobody had raised their hand yet. I was hoping that someone else would pop up as well.
These are the 6 questions I always ask.
Oh wait, Chris Butler's back.
Hey, Chris.
One thing I really like using is assumption mapping. I don't know if anybody's done that before, but it's hard to do with UX researchers because usually they actually know an awful lot. It's just the rest of the team doesn't. And so the discrepancy between where you place it on like known versus like evidence-based versus not is like, it's usually a lot of evidence-based stuff, but I really love assumption mapping. That's probably my favorite activity.
You know, I'm right there with you, but I think that's the thing. It's not about us. It's about when I'm thinking about stakeholder management and trying to make sure I'm meeting those business goals and still meeting those user needs. And then we still don't know. We're still at the part where we don't know what MVP is going to be, right? We are figuring out and defining what the problem is, because they've come to us with a solution ultimately. Like you go to the mechanic and you're like, hey, mechanic, my brakes are squeaky and can you fix them? Okay, listen, I'm not a mechanic. I tell my mechanic my brakes are squeaking. It seems like my brakes are squeaking. But I go to my mechanic and he's like, yeah, lady, great. I'll call you with an estimate later. And turns out it wasn't my brakes, it was something else. But I came to him with a solution, and it was his job to actually solve the problem. So all the way through here, what I love about assumption mapping or any sort of sticky generation, any sort of those activities where we can have our IT, our devs, our our researchers, UX, all the people that can influence positively or negatively our project, have them at the table and have them answer these questions. What do we know? What do we think we know? What are the risks going to be? How do we define success? How are we going to measure success? That's my favorite one to ask. So great. We all agree that this is how we're going to define success. Fantastic. I can only define success like this if I can measure it somehow. How will we know we were successful? All the live long day, great. I'm going to make sure that all the boxes get on the truck in time. Well, how do we know that? Will we systemically know that? How? Or do we have access to that data? If no, then no. That can't be a measure of success because I can't measure it, or my team can't measure it, or someone else owns this and I can't get to them. We can't measure it. So that can't be a success metric. Who else has activities they like to do, questions that they like to ask? I try to ask these questions that you see on your screen here to everyone about 3 times. Of our key stakeholders. These are the questions that I'm going to answer in my kickoff. These are the questions when I'm going to bring to my team and let's figure out with the problem, the solution they brought us. How does this happen here? How did this become a project? I'm going to ask that to the person who is our project sponsor, or perhaps is our product owner, and say, hey, so tell me how this got here. How did you get involved with this? Especially if you could include them and ask them their experience, they're going to love to tell you about that. I'm doing that right now. You came here to hear me talk about my experience. How about that? People love to talk about that. And in those times is when they start to give you the information that they didn't maybe think was important, or they maybe weren't ever thinking that it should come up. They didn't, for whatever reason. Those unknown unknowns, you're going to get this little bit of information by asking these kinds of questions several times to the same person, to those key people over and over again, maybe in a different way. And if we're starting to get the same answer, oh, this must be really, really true. But if they're starting to get conflicting stories, there's something else going on here. And that is one of the things you want to make sure you do, is uncover those unknown unknowns. Anybody else?
One thing too that is a good question to ask, and depending on how your organization is structured, may be necessary or not, probably more likely to be necessary, is how are we going to ensure accessibility for this? That we are including disabled users, because disabled users are 1/4 of humans on the planet. So inevitably they will be users of whatever this is that we're doing. And something else, like I work in a large enterprise where that's built into the process, but I have worked in smaller places where I had to be much more intentional about, like, hey, how are we going to make sure that we're doing that? And then also making sure that stakeholders understand the difference between user acceptance testing and usability testing. That seems to be something that's really fuzzy, and they're very different. One is learnability, usability. It's before anything's coded. And the other one is try and break this before we release it into the wild so we can find bugs. It's not the same objective, but a lot of people don't know that. And so I think sometimes education becomes part of that process. And something that someone brought up at a talk recently that I thought was really interesting to pose as a question is, we know there's bad actors out there. What are we going to do to ensure that they can't, or that it would be more difficult for them to use this in a way that is not intended for not great purposes? I thought that was a really compelling question.
Thinking about accessibility, especially like, those silent disabilities. Again, on the enterprise side of stuff, this is all employees. It's all the things I build, the things I design are all for Home Depot associates. And I love supporting the associates. My whole jam is like, I just want to make everyday work just a little bit easier. It shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be work to go to work. And some of these 30-year-old applications, they make it work to go to work. But I will say that it's not a discussion that I hear all the time. And you have to be very purposeful about, well, the reason, if I'm holding and working and standing in a warehouse for 12 hours, how does that affect, listen, I'm not a young guy standing on concrete. How do I hold the device? Maybe I have arthritis. Maybe I wear glasses. Maybe I have some sort of carpal tunnel situation, which if you work in a warehouse long enough or you work with your hands long enough, it's going to happen to you. So how are we designing our device applications to accommodate working 12 hours with a device? And listen, I have to have a special mouse because I have carpal tunnel from working with my hands. And how are we taking care of them there? And we often just overlook that. Look, you're a Home Depot employee. You're working here. I see you working. It must be fine. Well, okay. So we had to take that on and really think and work on that. But that's not the only place that it's happening. When we're working and building stuff for employees, it's easy to overlook those little tiny things because look, I see them working. Everything must be fine. Who else deals with
and I think people are reluctant to come forward because they fear it may have impact on their job, but things like making sure that an application, especially someone who is doing a lot of data entry, can be keyboard only, not just for efficiency, but because of repetitive motion injuries and those sorts of things. And just like having your arm forward to hold a mouse all the time. Like at one point, I had to become a left-handed mouse user to give my right arm a break because I had constant shoulder pain. So now I'm an ambidextrous mouse user. I can do it either way. But there are, something like almost 70% of disabilities are invisible. And 1 in 4 people has a disability. So, it doesn't matter where you work, they're there, whether they're saying so or not. And so I think we have a collective responsibility to keep a spotlight on that as we're going through the process. And so this is a great time to talk about those things. And that's reducing risk. I mean, learning by lawsuit is not how you want to learn how to be a better, more accessible company.
I don't even take it that far to lawsuit. I think, okay, listen, I have these people working in this area doing this kind of things. We're going to take the time to do it. You're going to retire these legacy applications. I want to make sure that this works. So listen, I'll show you what it looks like if you can't do something. But let's take the time to deal with that. And you can't go ask the employee. Well, first of all, who wants to be outed? Who wants to, it's uncomfortable. But if there's 10,000 plus employees who are doing this particular job, we know that someone here probably is dealing with this and they shouldn't have to. Their jobs should be easier than that. We should be more thoughtful than that. And so that's one thing I've really been impressed with, that this year we've been able to take that time and go, oh yeah, we're all in front of our computers so much more, even as a digital designer. We're in here more, we're having a meeting just like this, that you're to me, I feel like we're so much more aware. But in kind of moving forward here, we've kind of run short on time. I talked about stop solving the problem and stop solving the solution to solve the problem. And that one is really meaningful to me. And again, I explained that, a person comes to you, hey, I need you to design a thing. I need you to build a thing. And they tell you by giving you a solution to solve this problem. And to me, that is also part of expectation negotiation. So I understand that you describe it this way, but is that really the problem we're trying to solve? And being careful about talking to them and uncovering what the problem is, and still being respectful of their space and making sure that they feel heard, especially if they're, if it's a process that is an SOP that has been at a company for 10 years and no one's really dealt with it. It's fine, I suppose, but we have to fix this. We have to update stuff. But because we did it this way, should we still be doing it this way? So yeah, we have this old solution, but is that really the right problem that we're still trying to solve? So kind of thinking about expectation negotiation, I have one last one for you here. So I'm going to show it to you. Holly is going to tell you what to choose and when to vote. Here we go.
I'm loving these questions. These are fantastic. I can't wait till this is a full-blown deck.
Me too.
Yeah, your MVP or your MDE, depending on which acronym your company likes the most. So minimum viable product or minimum delightful experience, depending on the world you live in. Okay, so let's go ahead and vote. Remember, top row, left to right, 1, 2, 3, go.
It's so exciting when you say it like that.
I know, I'm practicing my game show host.
I'm going to need you to do this with me every time I iterate and improve on this particular deck.
I mean, okay. I'm not, as an adult, one time got a trophy and jumped up and down like I was on The Price is Right.
I will,
Okay.
I'm gonna, dear Amazon, get a trophy. I got you. All right, what was the outcome here?
So I think the consensus overall was number 1.
Number 1, keep the pauses in the conversation short. You guys are fantastic. Absolutely. Listen, that miracle time when you don't say anything is when people reveal the most, because they don't like that lull in the conversation. That is one of my most favorite things. And it was a really hard lesson to learn as a young project manager, just to be quiet, to put out that open-ended question and just wait, because I want the answer right now. I'm young and I want it right now. But be very proactive about difficult stakeholders. Those are going to be the people that come back. They missed the alignment meetings. They weren't there for kickoff. And then they are someone who impacts your product. They impact your project somehow. And they're like, they missed all of those meetings. They missed all of that alignment. Your little group, you've got them happy. You're in the middle of some sort of usability testing and you're reporting out, and they show up to that meeting. They haven't seen any of the prelims, nothing. And they show up, all they have are their expectations of the original ask from back there. You've been managing this group of people. You've been hurting them. Like, come on, we're going to paddle, swim. We're all going in the same direction, except for this guy, right? And he's like, but what about all of this? So we need to make sure that we identify, goes back to identifying those people. How can they impact positively or negatively your project? And if they're not showing up, go get them. Get your product manager after them. Go find them and say, I'm really looking forward to your feedback. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. They want to tell you. They will make that time. And you will find a way to connect with them personally so that they make that 15, 30-minute call with you, and you can ask them some open-ended questions, wait to hear what they have to say, and then know when you either deliver something or you're showing something, they're not derailing this whole group and there's this silence and awkward and it's on this call, and then you're like, wait, what? Because once that person kind of puts that little nugget out there, that little like bloop, that little pebble in the pond, it sort of ripples through the group, and they're like, wait, is that right? If they're not super confident they're new to this or new to this process, oh wait, we want to mitigate that right away. And I wanted to share one last thing with you guys, and then we can, ask some questions or share some experiences. But so I think learning more about negotiation and managing people, my wife wanted me to put Dale Carnegie on there, so that, how to, make friends and influence people. That book, that's the one that she gives to all her managers. Read this book. Well, listen, I read the book, and it's great. It's great advice. Ask people, like, tell me about you. Just tell me about you. How can I help you? And ultimately, that's the person that's going to end up helping you somehow, right? I'm here to help you. That's the point. But I found, although helpful, I found it harder for me especially when I was, to get into it and have exactly what to say. And this is the book that I connected with more with, is Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Now, I would not normally say go to some FBI agent to be able to get the skills to be able to manage stakeholders, but I absolutely have, from the day this book came out, used how he asks questions and understand the psychology about those questions, about how you frame questions, to when someone gives you a task or asks you to do something, and how to push back on that. Well, I want you to do this XYZ thing, and you don't have time. We can't upset the sprint. Like, we've already had the money spent. So the money's spent. How do you want me to proceed? Finding ways to be able to push back, especially if you're new to having to manage stakeholders, finding ways to deal with difficult personalities. There could be some foreboding personalities who might be higher up on the chain than you are. And how do you respectfully listen to them so they feel like they're heard, but you're actually in control of the conversation? I cannot recommend this book enough. I recommend both of the books at the same time. To go ahead and read some Dale Carnegie, to go ahead and read some Chris Voss. And the one thing I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to know about Chris Voss is his email trick. I have used it at many a job. When you have that stakeholder who's ghosting you, or you have anyone, you have that contractor at your house who's ghosting you, right? And you emailing, you're calling, and they're just not. Just in the subject line, just write, have you given up on this project? It triggers this like fight or flight thing, and they're like, wait, what? That's it. Nothing in the body, just that. They will respond back with you, I guarantee you, within 24 hours. And when I started doing that, I was like, oh yeah, the Chris Voss book was the one for me. So I, just kind of going into that, all of the things that we do, listening to people so they feel heard, and that being deliberate about how we interact with people, so that, hey, I want you to feel heard, and I want to uncover as much as I can that this stakeholder management is absolutely built on empathy, and that just goes hand in hand with what we're doing. This, design thinking and user-centered design, it's the same, and it's a skill I feel like we don't talk about enough. Who's got questions, or who's got some experiences they would like to share? Who's read this book? Who's read the Chris Voss book? Anybody here?
Anna, go for it. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I have a question about what happens when you listen too well and all they want to do is talk at you constantly the ideas sort of keep coming and coming, and the process is derailed, because I've put myself in a position where I'm a thought partner now, but a thought partner essentially am now creating summaries for people. They tell me, they do an information dump. I tell them what they're actually saying in a concise manner, and then they do it again several times a day.
Oh, several times a day. That's a tricky one for sure. So tell me a little bit, can you tell me a little more context about?
I'm at a very small company, and this is my direct boss, and he determined early on in my employment about 7 months ago that I was listening, and he appreciated that.
Bob. Hey, you have this list of stuff that you're doing, you're trying to get ready to be built, and then Bob calls you and he's like a grenade, right? And he takes you out. He's got this story. He's probably taking out other people with him. He maybe, if we were all in the same room, he'd just go on and on and on. Hey, Bob, so how are we supposed to do this other thing? How could I push back to have Bob solve this problem? Bob, you told us that we were supposed to build this. Is that what we're doing? Hey, Bob, what is the thing that is prioritized that we have to do? Did Bob say, take these next steps, but he keeps derailing those next steps by adding different ideas? So go back to what he's originally asked you to do. Said, okay, if we do this, how do we start building this, Bob? Make it his problem, not yours. Obviously, on my side, it's a lot easier said than done. It takes a little bit of practice, and that's that. How do you want me to proceed? You'll have to draw some boundaries. If we have this conversation, I'm not going to be able to get this done today. What should I do? How do you want me to go forward? And just leave it. And make it Bob's problem. I don't know if does that make sense to you?
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. I've been asking do you want me to prioritize this over what we planned? And that sometimes gets me the answer, but I think that your framing is a little bit better, where he has to actually solve the problem.
Make him solve the problem. So don't give him the option, this or that. That's what you've done with asking, well, which one should we do? Just say, how do we do that? How do we go forward? Then he's got to actually give you an actionable plan, or we're just waiting on Bob. And then, all right, we're waiting on Bob. Bob hasn't told us the way forward. Bob hasn't signed off on this, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I'm sending you the Chris Voss book. You're getting that for your birthday.
Oh, it's in October. So far away.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to just tag in because I had a similar issue with a project I was on, and I don't know if this will work for you. Her advice is the best, but this is also something I would do because a lot of people in my group were kind of chatty Cathy's. Is I would always bank the last 15 minutes of a meeting of being like, so what are the 5 things we're working on? And if they're the same things, they're the same things. If not, and then I would keep like a list somewhere that we all share where they can just put their ideas. And honestly, that list was just for them to feel like they said something, but we could still focus on the top stuff. But if you give the first part of the meeting for them just, brain dump, and then you at the end go, hey, what are we doing? That keeps you in line, but they feel like they've still been heard. So that's what I always did on mine.
Yeah, that's a great tactic as well. That's sort of like the idea of the parking lot, but at the beginning. So I love that, and that's, I mean, and you said you nail on the head there. People just want to be heard. Oftentimes, people don't directly impact the project. They can probably cause you some hassle. They might have some knowledge of to be able to help you out, but really they just want to say something. I don't know why. People just want to connect somehow. So I love that idea of just come and just dump it all out here first. Love that.
I used to be a journalist. People are never listened to. And when they find somebody who's an active listener and who's actually taking in their ideas, it's like giving them drugs.
I think that's the part where, again, I don't know this Chris Voss guy. I don't get anything from the sale of his book. But when I listened to Dale Carnegie, I felt it really helpful because, certainly in design school, I have none of that training. It's all about you and your work and defending your thing. Okay, that's not going to work in life because we're here to be a part of a community. However, whatever your job is, you as a journalist, or you as a UXer now, all of those things, we're here to be servants to our community, servants to the products that we design, to the users that we support, the business goals that we have. So I never had any of that. And so I listened to his book because that's the gold standard of how to deal with people. And yeah, okay. But I sort of felt like, I would get caught in those traps where people just wanted to talk to me all the time. And I don't want to listen all the time. I want to listen and hear you, but on my terms. And that's where I felt the Voss book gave me the words to do that, because I'm a very visual person, and having the words to do that is often difficult. You probably could see that in me talking tonight. I will look up to the left. I'll have a little hard time finding that right word and making that connection. So I needed something, especially when I was dealing in higher stake situations, to be able to have, this is the go-to thing I say. One of them is, well, how are we to do that? Or I like to mirror. That's one of my other tricks that he kind of goes into is I used to have a boss who would, ask me to do something I didn't have time for. Can you file these papers? And you just leave it hanging there, and they'll come back and go, yeah, do these things. And they might hear themselves say that again. And then they're like, oh no, I didn't really mean that. They just wanted to come in your office and talk to you. I guess maybe they just need a hug. I don't know. Maybe we don't hug enough at work.
We
I can't
can't
be
do that anymore. It's illegal.
We're doomed.
You have to at a minimum ask consent first, which I think is just a good idea with touching in general anywhere. Is it okay if I touch you? Do you want me to hug you? These are just polite things to do before we throw our flesh onto other people or touch them.
Maybe
especially now I'm extra jumpy with COVID.
Oh, sure.
I also posted in the chat a link to the Gertman drama triangle, which it's really a resource for codependency. However, it's very easy to find yourself on the codependency triangle at work. And the thing that I love about this particular handout is that it has suggestions for how to state boundaries depending on kind of like where that person's sitting, if they're playing the victim or if they're wanting you to be their rescuer and save them, or if they're treating you like you're some sort of persecutor, how to sort of reframe conversations so that you can set healthy, appropriate boundaries. Like I have 10 minutes and I would be happy to listen to you for the next 10 minutes, and I'm going to have to cut you loose, and those are things that get easier to say the more that you can do them. And I found it to be hugely helpful in my personal and professional realm. And I love it because it has examples of things that you can say. So when you have someone who's really kind of emotionally wearing you down, wanting to be rescued all the time, it says, you are making statements that return some agency to them and put them in a position where they have to make the decision, like Liz was talking about. So when would you like this to be done? Which would you prefer to be a priority? So ultimately that responsibility is in their hands. And, hey, you said it. So, you're the boss. I'm not.
Well, they've made the decision. So they feel like they're empowered.
Right.
You pushed it back, and be wary of giving them a this or that choice, because now you have the power. Is it this one or is it that one? How are we supposed to do that? They have to solve all of it. You've solved part of it for them when you come to the table and say this one or that one. No. How are we supposed to do this? Oh, tell me, how do you think we should do this?
This one or that one is when you need a kid to pick out an outfit and you're trying to get them dressed for school. Would you like to wear the tennis shoes or the shiny shoes? You want to limit their choices. But I think that being really, sort of turning the tables and putting that decision back in their hands and I love your email tip. I recently had a project that was work adjacent where someone wasn't being responsive. And I wish I had heard that 3 days ago. It would have been so helpful. Because
it's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, if someone's no longer engaged, you are doing me no favors by saying nothing. I would much rather you say, I prefer to cut bait. Okay. that's fine by me. Like, I'll go find something else. You know, I'll go find a different way to deal with this, but nobody likes to be strung along. It starts feeling like a bad dating relationship, you know, when you have those it's like high school dating all over again. Nobody wants to revisit that.
That's for sure.
Does anyone have questions for Liz? I'm trying to find my clock. We're really close to time.
Yeah, we're 2 minutes.
Liz, you are the best robot sheriff I know, as always.
Well, thank you everyone for having me and being my guinea pigs for the beginning of this. I'd love to hear your feedback. It looks like we have some stuff to work on to make this a little bit smoother, to make it work over a web call for sure. I think we could probably make this a little more robust, but I'd love to hear what you think of this presentation and what you think it's missing, or what you wish, any of it. I'm open to all of it. I will listen to some of it. I might take action on 1 or 2 of them. So, but I want to hear it. Absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter. You can chat me up right now. Twitter is probably the best place. My DMs are open. You can do it in front of God and everyone and post it and tag me in it and be like, oh my gosh, this ridiculous game. But thank you all for coming. If you have any questions about Enterprise UX, shoot me up for those too.
And Liz, can you repeat to everyone what your Twitter handle is?
It is Lizz Horvath, Lizz Horvath, Horvath. That's it. Simple.
I also love that you only committed to implementing 1 or 2. That was brilliant.
Listen, I want you to feel heard, but I work in stories and I work by sprints and I protect my sprints. And so I only have so much capacity, and I'm working at a velocity of about 4 right now. And that's about all I can handle.
And it's COVID times, so we're just all getting by. Well, thanks to everybody for coming tonight. We are always happy to hear from you. You can catch me. I'm Anna, your baby. Everyone stop to admire the adorable dog. And so sweet, not barking, unlike Al and I's monster. It wasn't their fault. There was a storm. But the quickest way to get me, you can send me a DM on Twitter at 314UX Holly like Hollywood. And Al, you want to rattle off your
the easiest
method?
way to get me is off of LinkedIn, just --Alexiana, ALEXEANA. That's usually the easiest way to get a hold of me, is just add me on LinkedIn.
And Kim, how about you? What's the quickest way to get a hold of you?
I guess my email, KimberlyECamp@gmail.com.
Samuel Jackson on my ALEXA got activated when Al spelled out the LinkedIn. I don't know why. That was some kind of a. Thanks, Alexa. Stop, Alexa. Alexa, stop. Sorry, everybody. Anyway, thank you so much for coming tonight. I forgot that on my checklist to disable the bot. I'm not a good robot wrangler. I got a robot sheriff. My gadget misbehaves on a regular basis. And Sarah Davis, I see you, by the way, and Julie Gross.
Yeah.
Good to see our former students. Hi, guys. And thanks to everybody who's in from out of town. We hope to see you again. And my Twitter bud, the lovely Anna Davis. So we'll see you next time. Liz, you're amazing. Game night soon.
Absolutely.
Say hey to the wife and the pups.
Absolutely. Maybe it's UX categories next time around.
Did you just see how big my eyes got? Like saucers. Don't tease me. I'll get a trophy.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, y'all.
Take care, everybody. Good night.